Action fanatics, welcome to a super edition of the Bulletproof Podcast. I'm your host, Chris the Brain. Joining me once again, it is Ryan Campbell.
Greetings, everyone, and salutations and from my fortress of solitude here in Ohio.
And, of course, we couldn't do this without the Toyman, DePetrillo.
It's a bird, it's a plane, it's a Toyman.
It's a bold bastard.
Can I just get off my chest real quick how mad I was to find out that there was a private screening at the Hall of Justice here in Cincinnati, and my BPA creds could not get me an invite. It looked awesome, too. They had, like, vendors set up with a whole bunch of comic books and shit. Like, man.
You need to be on top of
come
that.
on.
You need to be on top
I don't know what's going
Well,
on.
you got to
around
realize
here.
our press credentials from Brain are akin to when the Three Stooges have to sneak into the track and they have to take the buttons off the soap machine in the men's room.
Did anyone get that reference?
That's a dated reference, yeah.
If anyone,
It's like a 90-year-old reference.
if anyone did, let us know.
Please comment below.
Yeah, we've got. What do we?
If you know how to use a computer to put you got the reference.
So yeah, if you haven't figured it out, which obviously you did because you clicked on it, and you saw what we were talking about. We're talking about the brand new Superman movie, directed by James Gunn, and just a little warning, because I imagine we might get into a little spoiler territory. So
I was going to say, do we want to take like maybe the first like 10 minutes and stay kind of spoiler free and encourage people to come back? Or are we just going like balls deep into spoilers? What are we doing here?
I'm just warning. I'm imagining our conversation may have some spoiler information in it. So if you want a spoiler free review, go check out bulletproofaction.com, because my written review really didn't give anything away plot wise. You could check that out on bulletproofaction.com. And then after you've seen the movie, come hit us up here on the podcast. We'll still be here.
On that note, credit to the movie for staying relatively, like, I kind of tried to avoid a lot of details about the plot, and I did watch like the first trailer, but tried not to watch any additional trailers or TV spots. But even like the stuff I caught, on Twitter without trying, just being exposed to stuff, didn't give away a lot of the movie, which was nice compared to Jurassic World last week, where literally every scene in the movie was covered in some form of media.
Yeah, I felt just seeing the trailer, I knew what that story was for Jurassic World. So yeah, again, if you don't want spoilers, if you don't care and we're just background noise for you, then you really don't care what we say, do you? We're just background noise, and that's fine too, as long as you're listening. I do want to say, I told you guys last week about the screening and how it seemed like it was as Gorilla Monsoon would say, it was a happening. I was referring to it as a to-do.
It certainly seemed like it. I wish some of that love would have come down south my way.
And once I got there, I realized that it was a happening. It was a to-do. The news people were there. There were people with the capes with the freaking July 11th on the back of it. Everybody had shirts, and oh my, it was something. It was a happening, and it happened, and it was a to-do, and it to-did. And I'm going to tell you what, it was very exciting. Just being in that, it was like, okay. They had like 2 theaters. 2. Then we get into the theater, and the freaking CEO of the theater chain came up from Knoxville to welcome us to this thing. Live and in
person. You're in the Cleveland one. I mean, both Cleveland and Cincinnati. I'm sure we've brought this up before. But we're filmed on location sets,
right,
for the movie. So you're in one of the hotbed main premiere areas.
So yeah, I mean, I was basically in Metropolis. So here we are, and it was just it felt bigger than any kind of screening I've ever been to, and so.
It should. It's freaking Superman.
It is. And I was already hyped, but then I was just like, wow, I think I need to be even more amped up. And it was very, very exciting. Just, there was a buzz in the air. Even the weekend before, it just felt like there was Superman fever was in the air here in Cleveland. So I was feeling it.
That's appropriate for you, being as big of a Superman mark as you are. So you're like right at you're at the center of the universe when it comes to the release of this film and all the hype around it, and you yourself are hyped
Right.
given your fandom. So, just right place, right time for you.
And I mean, the weird thing is, going all the way back to 1978 and that Superman, all-time favorite for me. Like, anytime I would go downtown after that, as a kid, you would be like, this is like I'm in Metropolis. So now it's very strange that many decades later, it was freaking Metropolis, and the Terminal Tower was part of Metropolis, and all the shit that I was seeing down there was Metropolis. So very, very cool.
And let me preface this by saying as well, Brain, that you are not someone that gets very hyped up like that. Like, you are not susceptible to these kinds of things usually. I can say, listeners, I've been with this man to big events, big wrestling events, WrestleMania, SummerSlams, big releases, and you can't wait to get home. So that you felt that you felt the buzz and were excited speaks to it. You're not someone that is affected by those things very easily, I'll say.
Yeah, I'm not you, is what you're saying.
No, exactly what
Ryan
I'm
Campbell.
saying.
Socializing is your kryptonite.
Yeah. Ryan Campbell, any movie that comes out, at least when he first sees it, could potentially be the greatest movie of all time and change the industry forever. Maybe 3 days later, he comes off that high. But
what can I say? I like things.
You and that fucking Avatar.
You know what? I've just come up with a new nickname. We're going to call you RBRC, Recency Bias Ryan Campbell.
He's this biggest Star Wars mark in the world. And then Avatar comes out and he's like, Avatar is going to be like, no. And there's been.
I mean, it was the biggest grossing movie of all time. So clearly there's something.
Fucking do. I'm talking about decades later, people fucking showing up at the theater in Darth Vader outfits and lightsaber battles while they're waiting to get in the goddamn theater. I don't think I'm going to see blue people 50 years from now lining up for shit. I'll be dead, possibly, most likely, but
even they'll probably still be making sequels of it.
But it'll be for Bluey.
Right. Yeah, I'm just saying that. But yeah, so to go on, to add on to yours, again, like you said, usually once something's done, I'm like, I just got to get the hell out of here. I get out there, the newsman, the news anchor for the ABC affiliate's like, hey, you want to talk to us? Fuck yeah, I want to talk to you. Let's go. Mic me up. Get the mic on me.
How much time you got?
Get the mic on me. Let's do this thing. And I did it. So, I don't know if it aired because I don't watch the fucking news. But anyway, you know why I don't watch the news? Because it's grim and not good. And I don't want to hear about it. Kind of like Man of Steel was grim. But listen, this one wasn't. All right.
Hopeful Superman is back.
Yeah, hopeful Superman. I like light and hope and the beacon of light and a hero. He's a superhero.
And the color blue, not the colored gray blue.
Blue and red. He's got his drawers back on. Everything's good in Superman land, for as far as I'm concerned.
We've already lost the Snyder Bros now.
It's okay. It's okay. Or we've kept him because now they're like writing down all the dumb shit.
Yeah, you're right. There's going to be an article on r/Snyderverse tomorrow.
No, these assholes don't know what the hell they're talking about. Listen to some of their.
No, they'll say we're paid shills. That's the common
true.
theme. I've already seen on Twitter today. I got back from the movie, just started logged on there, and sure enough, that's all. If you like the movie at all, you're a paid shill.
And I will say that
I ain't gotten my check yet. From
no, I didn't either. I did get into the movie for free. I will admit to that, and I got a free small popcorn and small drink. So if you think that's enough to sway
your opinion isn't valid.
If that,
it's going to cover the cost of this conversation.
Honestly, probably that popcorn and drink was like $500 value. But listen, maybe $100 because it was a small. I don't know. I don't buy stuff at the theater because it's very expensive. But yeah, I will be going. The plan is to go again this weekend to see it and pay for it because I feel it deserves it. Just spoil it. In case you haven't read my review or you haven't told by the tone of my voice, I really enjoyed this film. This is the movie I wanted Superman Returns to be.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
This is when I went into Superman.
A hell of a lot more action.
Yeah. And that was really Superman. Superman Returns got off to a great start and then it just petered out quickly.
Yeah, after the plane scene, it all just kind of
it was like, yep,
After that, it's Lex kind of carries the
yeah.
movie after that point.
I mean, again, that was the one where there was that one trailer which had like it had all. It's like, oh my god, this is going to be the greatest movie. I was Brian Campbell. This is going to be the greatest movie of all time, and it wasn't. But yeah, this is definitely the movie I wanted that Superman Returns to be. It is the heroic Superman, the hopeful,
It's unapologetically Superman. As a child of the 90s that grew up around like the height of Marvel, X-Men, Spider-Man, when they kind of took the mantle away from DC, like growing up, the kids on the playground would always talk about how Superman was too perfect and he was kind of a Boy Scout and all that kind of stuff. And that's kind of what the world I grew up in. But I mentioned this to you, Brandon. It's the first thing I text you after I got out of the movie is the times that we live in right now, we kind of need that. I think that's how you make Superman interesting. For years, like even going back to Man of Steel again, it was, oh, you can't make Superman interesting without doing like the alternate universe Superman, or is he evil, or all these other kinds of things. And I think James Gunn nailed it by just saying like, no, he can when the rest of the world around him is compromised and you're the one guy that can't be compromised. And that's kind of what the movie is constantly kind of battling with. And that's how you make it interesting. So we'll dive into it more, but yes, it's nice to have a quick, essential, unapologetic Superman back.
I mean, his biggest enemy in the whole film is character assassination.
yeah.
He's dealing with the bullshit that every single one of us at one point or another deals with, the online trolls and the perception and the cult mentality out there of people that just, will grab a snippet and 30 seconds later they've got their mind made up. Even more recency bias than Ryan Campbell has.
Right.
Literally monkeys
And
behind keyboards.
literally, yeah, exactly, literally. It. I don't want to say it was. I feel like the term woke is overused, but James Gunn really did tap into the BS that an everyday your average Joe is facing, whether they log into Facebook or they go to read a movie review or listen to a podcast. It's just all the negative bullshit that's out there floating in the air. And here is, the beacon of hope, the shining light superhero, and he's going to overcome a world that has just become comfortable with being miserable.
I don't want to draw too many comparisons to Man of Steel and just focus on this movie, but even in the halfway through the first movie, Superman looks at Lois and says, "No one stays good in this world." It's like, yeah, really held on to that, man. He's really staying true to himself.
And that was the thing. Like when Man of Steel came out, I'm like, yeah, I get we can't be in 1978 where it's like, Superman shows up, starts saving people, and no one questions anything. They're just like, yay, this man helps us. No one's like, oh, isn't that guy a little bit too powerful? Couldn't he just murder all of us if he... That wasn't even a thought in anyone's mind, certainly not in the movie. I don't remember as a kid worrying about, because he was just good. You knew he was good. He was like freaking Santa Claus. It's like, you don't expect Santa Claus ain't gonna come down your chimney and murder you. Although that does happen in some movies. But listen, not when you're a kid. You're just like, no, it's freaking Superman. It's Santa Claus. These are good people. They bring good things to us. So yeah, I get that. So I'm glad, though, obviously you cannot make that 1978 movie exactly in 2025. So I was glad that they had in the cable news show guy who's there to stir everybody up and flip-flops quicker than a hiccup when need be. And what you were saying, Chris, with the character assassination online. I mean, it's a modern day Superman, but it still has the sensibilities of the past and of the comics and of the cartoon shows and all the different iterations of Superman are kind of represented here, a little bit here, a little bit there, but it's a wonderful mix of Superman lore.
I mean, the one thing that I liked about his character traits here is, obviously we don't get the full origin story. We're not starting, from, ground zero here, where, we're in the midst of his run as Superman. Right. And with all of the focus on him, he's an alien. He's not from here. He's different than us. And they do play him as still kind of like this naive, type of like socially awkward character, like not just like with the Clark Kent awkwardness that, Christopher Reeve, put into his role, but Superman himself still kind of like, being a little bit of like that, aw shucks, like what do I do? Or just kind of not having the right response. The scene where he's being interviewed by Lois
Right.
early in the film where he's supposed to be talking as Superman and he's just going to keep stopping at. He's like, that's not on the record. She's like, you're supposed to say it's off the record before you say what you're going to say. So I do like how for the superhero who's supposed to be this perfect symbol of everything, they played him as someone with flaws. They didn't make him too goody goody, too perfect, because then, you know, when you see people getting into the anti-heroes, the Deadpools, the Punishers, the Wolverines, you kind of need something to relate to. Superman, to all the stuff that we've been saying the last couple of minutes. If he's too perfect, if he's too unstoppable, then you make him unrelatable. So you kind of drew him back down to earth, but you did it in a way where the character had appeal. You didn't turn people off like you did in Man of Steel and all of the other films.
Yeah, and
Well,
to what you were saying, it's actually like 3 years. He's been on Earth for 3 years, or at least he's been on Earth obviously since he was an infant. But he's as Superman been around for 3 years, which also helps make sense how Lex has gotten so much information on him and is doing what Lex is about to do. Um, and again, he's not only is he just obviously an alien from another planet, so that makes him a fish out of water. He's also he was raised in Kansas, Smallville, Kansas, by some very down home folks. And these were the most down home Ma and Pa Kent I've ever seen in my life, but they were very,
Yeah.
very authentic feeling. And
Yeah, they were straight up hillbillyish this time
right.
around.
And it's like obviously they're gonna have different values than the big city folk. So
Mhm.
so again, even if he was just didn't even know he had all these powers, he's still gonna have that fish out of water type situation where he's in these scenarios where it's like, well, he's going based on how he was raised, and now he's in swimming with the sharks in Metropolis.
well, it's also it's kind of a nice middle ground of not being saddled with all the origin story stuff. We don't need to see Spider-Man and Superman's origin stories anymore.
Right.
But the fact that they mentioned this in the beginning, he just lost his first fight. So in a way, it kind of is an origin story without needing to be one. We don't have to rehash and see
Right.
like all this early stuff. But 3 years, he's been never even faced a challenge. He just shows up, saves a bunch of people. So like the fact that he just got his ass kicked for the first time, and that's what causes this kind of revelation and this growth that we see to the end of the movie. So it's again not an origin story, but they still get to do a lot of the cool stuff that you see it towards the second and third acts of an origin story by placing that he just lost his first fight element within the movie.
And we also skip over the will they or won't they Clark Lois dynamic. They're just together at this point, 3 years in, and I think one of the things I noticed right from the beginning, Mr. Cornsweat, he's a great Superman, he's a great Clark, and he has wonderful chemistry with Lois. These are the three essential things you need for a Superman to work. And I would just say it right up here, right up front. I put him right underneath Christopher Reeve, right underneath him.
Yeah, they did a good job too in the press tours and all the videos leading up, showing him and Lois. Kate, is it
Rachel Brosnahan.
Rachel Brosnahan. And that chemistry was coming out even ahead of the time. I remember seeing people just talking about sharing things on TikTok and other social media about how much chemistry they had, how it oozed even on the press tours and on the red carpet. And of course that translated to the screen. And yeah, you bought that these two people cared about each other, which we haven't seen, I don't think, in a Lois and Clark relationship since the first movies.
Right. And even the first movies, it was very, it was like, she didn't know that Clark, this one, Lois is already well aware of Clark and Superman being one and the same. So you don't have to play that game.
And they use that dynamic to the service of the plot with the whole interview and how they both have to kind of balance being reporters on one side and knowing the insides and how that also strains their relationships. There's almost three different angles, and that they help that lead to the plot instead of just, hand waving that they're together and make it all work.
Right. So then we have to also talk about Nicholas Holt, Lex Luthor, who obviously, he's Luthor Corp is the big building downtown, and he was probably like the man in Metropolis, probably up until about 3 years earlier, when this new guy comes into town and everybody's praising him, even though Lex is, by all accounts, a freaking genius. He could probably solve a lot of the world's problems with his mind and his ingenuity. But instead, he uses his gifts and his money to. He's just going to destroy Superman. That's his whole goal in life, Chris. He just wants to take him out of the picture.
And he's treating it like a live action video game with the way that he's kind of mapped out all of the flaws in Superman's offense and how to target him and how to counter his moves. And, he's walking around like he's got a Nintendo Power Glove on,
Right.
just kind of taking phantom swings as he's telling all of his people, was it A1, B5? It's like, he's cracked the code
Right.
and he's just enjoying it. And you would think that it's more to like torment Superman and get him out of the way, but as Lex Luthor is wont to do in comics and in other media, there's more of a master plan afoot. It's, Superman's just kind of one step in this grand scheme.
Well, and I loved how he did a fantastic job. And we often, whenever people kind of critique superhero movies or even action movies or blockbusters, they always talk about how convoluted the villain's plan is and how many things need to fall in line. With Lex as a character, it's almost the more convoluted, the better, because that's like his power is to lay all the chess pieces out there. He's 18 steps ahead. He's truly playing 4D chess, So like, it's almost like the more complicated it gets, you're like, yeah, only Lex can see it because that's Lex's ability. He doesn't have all these other things. It is brain over brawn. And I think you see that here of him kind of every step is leading to something. And he even says at the very end of the film, when he finally tells Superman, he's like, you think I am killing you because I want, this war? No, I caused the war, so I'd have an excuse to kill you. So like, that we've unraveled his scheme, we still didn't get all of it right in the end. So he just does a really great job. He also does the thing where like he's truly doesn't lose his cool until the very end, even as the rift is about to rip them in half. He pulls a lever and flies away. Like he literally never loses his cool in any moment facing Superman until the very last moment when it all comes apart. And that's when it all hits him. But
when he's actually facing Superman, it's
right,
like,
when he finally all blows up in his face. But like, it's not like the rest of the movie. He's, it's all unraveling and he's becoming psychotic. Like, no, he's sipping his drink right in front of Superman and muddling into it, knowing that only Superman can hear it. Like he's poking and prodding and nothing phases him until it all comes down at the very end.
and Ryan, you would know this. I'm trying to think off the top of my head, and I know there's been some crossover between the MCU and the DC movies, but is Nicholas Holt the first person to play a genius character in both universes? Because he was Hank McCoy, he was Beast in the later X-Men movies, and now he's Lex Luthor. I'm trying to think if anyone has done a crossover where they've played, a similar character to that extent.
Oh, I don't
Beast is
know.
obviously
I
one
mean,
of
there's
the.
been plenty of Kevin Smith likes to say that they're the beings that walk between two worlds. That's what he's always kind of coined those people as someone who's played in both movies. But specifically like the same character type or a genius character, I'd have to think about that one.
Yeah, we get Frank Grillo as well, who's now in both worlds.
Yep.
I think we have to talk. Well, and before we get off of Lex, definitely, probably, again, it's hard for me to say he's better than Hackman, but Hackman had that ability to kind of also have a little comedy in there, where this Lex isn't. He doesn't have that little smirk and a little happy little jokey manner to him when he wants to. Like that, Hackman could go from one end to the other, where like you guys were saying, this Lex, Nicholas Holt, he's like laser focused. Nothing really phases him. He doesn't get rattled. He's just doing his thing. And really, the comic relief is his girlfriend, who I was so happy was Eve Tessmacher. I mean, that's beautiful. Another nod to 1978.
Yeah, he always has to have his girlfriend by his side that makes all of his plans harder, but for some reason he always does. So we had that trope there that I really appreciated. We didn't really have like a dopey sidekick. I mean, he had a lot of sidekicks that were in his vicinity throughout the movie, but none that were like clearly his.
He didn't
his
have,
Otis.
but there is the character, and he wasn't dopey really, but his character was named Otis Berg, which is freaking genius. Otis
Did
Berg.
they call that out in the movie, or is that just?
I
Something
saw it
like
on the. I think they may have said Otis. Again,
Yeah, he called him Otis.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the guy who was driving the van,
Yeah.
or that said like it'll get bigger.
Yeah.
That was his. He was Otis.
He was
Okay.
Otis. But I don't think they said Otis Berg. But yeah, they definitely called him Otis. So yeah, again, another great nod. And while we're talking about the nods, obviously the music.
Oh, it's fantastic! It's almost like another character at this point.
It's yeah. I know. And like, who did the Man of Steel? Hans Zimmer.
Yes,
and that was great. I enjoyed it. There's some great mashups on YouTube where they take the John Williams and the Zimmer and they mash them together, and it's awesome. But it's like, it's almost like, would you do a Star Wars movie without that Star Wars fanfare? No.
The one specific moment, I mean, the movie, the music's kind of building up throughout the entire movie, but the one where like he comes back into Metropolis, he stops that building from collapsing on that car, and as she's driving away, she looks in the rear. I'm getting chills talking about it. She looks in the rearview mirror, and all the smoke is coming from the building, and Superman comes rising from the smoke, and the music hits that, bah, 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 and that was like stand up and cheer moment. Yeah. And again, it wasn't an origin movie, but it felt like that was the moment that he truly becomes Superman. He just has gone through all of this. He's now healed and refreshed. His resolve is stronger than ever. And like he rises from the smoke there. That was just a fantastic, and the score makes that so much better. Wouldn't have been the same with just like an awesome Hans Zimmer score.
Right. So you got the score. You again, we've talked about Eve, Tessmacher, we've talked about Otis Berg. Obviously the credits too, the font and just that style of credits. Seeing that again on the big screen, it's just, that's beautiful to me. Superman 1978 was such a monumental film with what they did and what they were able to do with practical effects. It's good to see them tipping their hat to that, because that's an iconic credit sequence in that freaking movie. And the credits are iconic, for God. It's much like Star Wars with the scroll. Shit was happening in the late 70s, I'll tell you what.
So how did you feel about the flying? I know like a lot of the early shots with that kind of fisheye view ahead of people were like, oh, like, of course, when you kind of cut it out into little half-second bits and put it on Twitter, it looks goofy. Yeah. But like in the context of the film, how did you feel about the flying? Did you believe a man could fly? Because I would say almost more in Superman than any other film, the flight, that was the gimmick that got you out to go see it in the 70s. So how do you feel it held up?
Superman was fine. I didn't have any, it's like nowadays you just kind of, anybody could freaking fly now. But no, I didn't have I wasn't like, oh, that doesn't look good. No, he was fine.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. There was I wish I knew where to talk about it, or else I would have got to call him out. But there is a YouTuber, like a long form essayist, that did a bit on flying in film, and that was part of what he was talking about, was focusing on how they did the early days of Superman, how they did it in the movies, and about how we see flying all the time now in movies. And it was talking about how James Gunn was doing it different. But I watched Superman Returns the other day just to kind of refresh myself, and I know it was earlier CGI. What was it, like 2008? But there were some of the flying scenes in that looked good from far away, and then but anything was up close, it looked pretty bad.
There you go. Yeah, that's one I have not watched in many, many years. I own it, but I haven't watched it. So yeah, we've got that. We got to talk about, my favorite character. Well, not my favorite character, but somebody I really enjoyed was Jimmy Olsen.
I knew you were going to say that. I was about to say Jimmy Olsen.
Ladies' man Jimmy Olsen.
Yeah, he's got the Riz in this movie, don't he?
Kind of like that dorky Riz. He's got
like you wouldn't expect it. It's low key. You wouldn't think he's the ladies' man, but something's going on there with the.
Well, not only is he the ladies' man, but he's got nicknames for certain people in his phone.
Mhm.
Like you wouldn't think like dorky little Jimmy Olsen would have, people labeled by nicknames, but here we
Hey,
are.
he's got to keep them straight somehow. He's not just going to remember them by their actual name. Skylar Gazondo, excellent job. You are my favorite Jimmy Olsen, young man. You've done a great job. And you know what? He's from Psych. He played young Sean Spencer on some of the Psych episodes. So I
I was
remember.
gonna say he must have been really young
Yeah.
then.
I was like, oh, I remember. Like when they announced his, and I like kind of saw him like, I know this guy from something. And I'm like, oh yeah, he's young Sean Spencer. My God.
I remembered him from We're the Millers,
All right.
the one with Jason Sudeikis and Jennifer Aniston, where they like go undercover as a family because they're trying to
Okay.
deliver drugs.
Yeah, I
I have
remember
a
that.
He
vague
was
memory.
he was like the kid that lived in Jason Sudeikis's building or whatever and tags along.
Very good. But yeah, so Skylar, you're awesome. Jimmy, and he's not just like a background character. He plays a major part in the plot because among the many women that Jimmy Olsen has had some sort of relationship with is Eve Tessmacher.
Bum bum bum. Who we find out actually really hates Lex, but she's terrified of getting put into the pocket dimension.
Yes. So, and again, that's somewhat similar. Obviously, Miss Tessmacher had her issues with Lex in the original movie because Lex blew up Hackensack, New Jersey, where her mother lived.
Do we think that she willingly knew what she was doing taking those selfies? Or is that just kind of like ditzy character secretly kind of,
I think that's something we might have to wait to the sequel to know the answer to. But yeah, I feel like it was just maybe she realized it after the fact. I don't think in the moment she realized it, but maybe because she was obviously a vain type person, and she was.
I think the fact that she sent all them to him though, like in that moment of distress, would imply that like she kind of knew what she was doing, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe again, not while she was taking them, but maybe when she was going back and looking at, oh, which ones are my best, selfie here? Which one? Oh, and then she noticed like, oh, look at all this shit in the background. That might be interesting to somebody. Maybe I should.
And that it's also kind of funny just from a Lex perspective of his like God complex that he thinks so little of her that it didn't even bother him that she was taking pictures.
Right. Where he's
like it's so beneath him that he's like, she would never even think that this was even worth having.
Right.
Like it's just his hubris always getting the better of him.
There's another big character we have to talk about, and that is KRYPTO.
What was the first thing you said to what was the first thing you said to Remo when you walked in the door after seeing it?
Oh my God, Remo was so excited when I came. I'm like, oh, here's my little KRYPTO. That's what I.
Yeah, because the chaos of KRYPTO kind of reminded me of Remo.
Oh yeah, most definitely, especially puppy Remo. Just always looking for some trouble. Yeah. I was so happy to be reunited with my dog. I imagine, and I put this in my review, I imagine that there's going to be a spike in puppy adoptions after this movie. It's going to kind of be like.
And more willingness to let them be crazy, hopefully.
Probably. It's going to be kind of like when everybody signed up for the Navy after they saw Top Gun. We're going to have everybody
just like that.
Everybody's going to be going to the shelters and getting them a crazy ass dog.
That's good.
Maybe putting a cape on it too. I don't know. The dog.
Although, as we found out, though, it also seemed that KRYPTO was a product of his environment. So,
yes, he was, and maybe his actual owner neglected him a bit. So you got to spend.
Yeah, how do we feel about that cameo?
That seemed like it was possibly an end credit scene at some point.
Yeah, that felt like it was more like because again. I'll go back to not to be bragging or make it sound like I'm bragging, but I was getting all these freaking press release things for like get ready for the thing and it's tonight and there's an end credit scene and I'm like, oh, okay. And yeah, that definitely felt like that was supposed to be the end credit scene instead of the sweet little moment we get with Superman and KRYPTO.
But interesting, I thought for sure we would get a Batman tease, and we can talk about this maybe a little bit later of how I think it works to have them in the same universe. But no, we didn't. But we did get a nod to Millie Abcock as Kara L, his cousin.
Crazy party cousin.
She likes to hit up the clubs around the universe, man.
But there was another cameo, and I think we'll let the Toyman spoil this one for everybody. I know you had to be very excited.
Are we talking about the?
I know you had to be.
Talk show cameo.
Oh boy, was that something I was not expecting at all.
I was hoping for a Gay Robbins cameo, but I didn't get it.
You want to know why, Ryan?
I thought he actually played the kaiju.
I was going to say.
No, I was hoping he was going to be the fist of Barova or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, the hammer of Boravia.
Yeah, there you go.
But no, Brain obviously alluding to the Peacemaker cameo. Peacemaker played by my quote unquote big bro, John Cena. So that definitely got a big pop out of Zach when we were there. I will tell you though, you already mentioned his name though, but Frank Grillo as Rick Flag. Zach has begun watching Prison Break, and Frank Grillo is in the early seasons of Prison Break. So Zach immediately, he's seen, him as Crossbones and stuff like that, but he goes, "Hey, it's the guy from Prison Break." So that was kind of a proud dad moment that, a 20-year-old TV show was kind of sinking in, something that's a little bit more complicated than Saved by the Bell or Three's Company, that he's actually latching onto it to the point where he got excited for seeing Frank Grillo of all people.
Who doesn't though?
Do we know if they're going to address in Peacemaker season 2 how he crosses universes, or are we just going to pretend like the end credit scene from season 1 didn't happen?
Maybe it's the portals.
Or maybe
they're going to retcon the portals into Peacemaker.
The exact same Peacemaker exists in 2 different universes or something, maybe.
Or
it's just not an important enough a character for us any other.
Or maybe it was just John Cena in a costume.
Maybe.
Did they ever identify
him to a costume party and they decided to interview him?
Did they ever identify him as Peacemaker? Or did we just assume he was Peacemaker because he had the Peacemaker outfit on?
In that universe, John Cena is playing Peacemaker in a TV series and he was on a talk show.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe Mr. C will have some input. I'll have to ask him when I talk to him.
So yeah, we got some cameos. And, well, we got to talk about the Justice Gang. I mean, we're 37 minutes in. We haven't talked about the Justice Gang as the Guy Gardner would like his group to be called. Not everyone's on board with that name, though. Or
I could use some tuning up. I think Superman might have some ideas.
Or with his hairstyle.
I mean, that was, looks wise and attitude wise, as a Green Lantern reader, especially in the 90s, that was a perfect Guy Gardner.
Yeah, it's exactly who Guy Gardner is. He's the asshole Green Lantern.
I mean, yeah, when they, I think there was something where they had his picture and then they had comic book pictures. And I'm like, they got that right. I'm not too familiar with the Guy Gardner character, but he did a great job. Nathan Fillion, certainly somebody that genre fans would love from his past work. So I think he did a great job. The Mr. Terrific, though.
Yeah, he was like him.
He was like a blaxploitation hero.
Yeah.
He kind of had like that 70s swagger to him. I like that.
He was the probably right after Jimmy being as awesome as Jimmy was like, who the hell? Because I had no idea who the hell Mr. Terrific is. And I apologize, comic book fans. Again, a lot of my superhero fandom came from, just because there were toys when I was a kid. Mego, thanks Mego for like having the license for every superhero. So they were all the right scale and all together. But then obviously was the Superman, the movie. Changed my life forever. So that was where my fandom for Superman more leaned. Yeah, I had some comics here and there, but I was never a super avid, like where I was going and reading and followed one thing. I would just grab whatever the hell was at the grocery store and you'd read it and throw it in a box. I'm a horrible comic book fan, but I love Superman. I would consider myself a B plus Superman fan.
And that's honestly what most people are. Like we get caught up in, it shouldn't be a second job to like something, and that's how some of these people act. Like unless you read every single issue and support your local comic shop and do all these things, like you're a poser or something, which is stupid.
Mm-hmm. And then of course Hawkgirl, which I was familiar with Hawkgirl.
Yeah, and quite the year for Isabella Merced, who was in Last of Us season 2 and now Superman. So she's having quite the year coming off of her role as Dora the Explorer a few years ago.
Cleveland's own as well. So another Cleveland
I saw
connection.
that. Could you introduce me, Brain?
I don't know the woman.
Oh, dang it.
I don't think she still lives here. I think she was just born here. I don't think she's hanging.
If you happen to catch her down at the airport or at the new stadium.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Give her my number.
You're going to be at one or the other. You're not going to be able to get to both. Let me tell you, that's still a ways off though. Yeah. So again, another little Cleveland connection there. And I'm glad you mentioned the kaiju, or as I like to call them, the Kajagoogoo's. Remember when El Rey would have Kaiju Christmas? Anyone?
Yes, I do.
But I would call it Kajagoogoo Christmas because I just do what the fuck I want, okay?
I mean, I appreciate that reference, especially since Too Shy was the first song I ever knew how to sing when I was a little kid.
Oh, no, I wish I didn't bring it up.
Don't be too shy.
I wish you were too shy sometimes, Toyman.
That's it. I'm going.
Goodbye.
What I did love about that scene, though,
Yeah.
was, and it's going back to as Superman being Superman, was how everything he was doing was where there was a part of his mind about how do I protect bystanders, how do I try to protect damage, which has been the huge complaint about Superman movies all the way back to the same year that Age of Ultron and Man of Steel came out, when like cities were getting leveled and it was this mass destruction, and the huge complaint about superhero movies was they cause more damage than they save.
Mm-hmm.
So to like see that be addressed, and that no, Superman is thinking about these things, and when you are the strongest being on the universe, you can take on a kaiju, but also be thinking about these other things. And he's getting kind of frustrated as these other three people just seemingly don't care about the damage they cause.
They're just trying to kill it. Yeah.
Right. So I like that part of it. And of course I'm never one to, I don't know if we've seen anything like that, like on screen. Obviously we see plenty of Superman fighting giant monsters in the animated series and comics, but we've yet to see kind of kaiju and superhero movies merge like that. So that was cool to see.
Yeah, that was definitely this is a thing that needed 2025 technology to happen. We weren't going to get that looking very good in 1978.
A man in a suit or something.
You'd have a guy in it. You'd have a Gary Robbins in a big rubber suit.
There you go. That could have been it.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that, the destruction thing, because that was one of the things I liked about probably my maybe prior to this, my favorite superhero movie of recent years would have been Spider-Man Homecoming, because that was a big part of that storyline, was the rebuilding of everything that the Avengers fucking blew up.
Yeah.
So
that there's a whole economy built up around the damage these people leave behind.
Mm-hmm. So that's good.
That shot though of him moving, and this was in the trailers and in the commercials, so we'd already seen it, but him sliding in the way and shielding that girl as those canisters get blown up, man, that's an awesome shot.
Yeah.
And I don't know what in that is practical and what in that is CGI, but I can't tell, and that's the point.
What you want.
It looked amazing.
Yeah. He saves a squirrel as well, folks.
Yes. Which I think is going to be my response to any certain bros on Twitter that are hating this movie, is like, the man saves a freaking squirrel. How cool is that?
He's a dog lover. He's saving squirrels. I need to mention that to Mr. Paul London, because Paul London is a big fan of squirrels. He just feeds these fucking things at the park. So if he starts getting a little bit like, I didn't like this, I'll be like, you can't hate it. He
friend of squirrels.
He was a friend of the squirrel. So whatever issue you may have, you have to at least cancel one of those out because of the squirrel thing. You mentioned it. The whole pocket universe gimmick plays a big part in this thing. And our hero ends up in said pocket universe because of Lex's plans. And this is where, again, Mr. Terrific really shines, but also Lois gets to step up. Not just a damsel in distress. Lois is a very big part of this movie, making things happen.
As she should be. Without Lois, Superman kind of lacks that. She's like the, I mean, he obviously has the human side, but her frailty, like them together, is what makes him beatable or vulnerable in any way. So yeah, the fact that she's putting the pieces together, doing the investigative journalism thing to like figure out, following the paper trail, and then just doing the damn thing and going in there. Yeah, that's makes a great Lois.
And we didn't get a bunch of him, but man, when Perry White was on that screen, he maximized his minutes. Wendell Pierce did a great job as Perry White. He did what he needed to do.
Job.
He wasn't over.
That's what a great character actor does. They take their moment and they just make the most out of it.
And again, like when they have to vacate, it's like we might have to vacate the Daily Planet, but business continues, and they're working on the frickin' Mr. Terrific mobile.
Pa Kent was the same way. Pruitt Taylor Vince. Like Pa Kent isn't like a huge driver of the plot in this movie as he has been in other recent Superman works, but the time he's on screen, maximized effort, gets the most out of it, sells that they're kind of this like middle to maybe low income house of just working people, and the pride he has in his son. All that's conveyed on screen in just the few minutes that he's on there. You didn't have to devote a third of the movie to make us believe that Pa Kent loves his son.
Right. Yeah, we didn't need to see him working on a tractor. We didn't need to see him we got it. Another thing we skipped over, and it was right at the beginning of the movie, which is again another nod to 78, was of course the Fortress of Solitude. And that style, I mean, it was obviously a bit different, but those that whole crystal Fortress of Solitude is absolute perfection. I mean, that was a beautiful design, and I'm glad it has carried on. It was a part of Smallville. I'm glad it's a part of this movie as well.
Yeah, it's an important part of the lore. I mean, and to have it,
and it had the big door. Like the big door reminded me more of the comic books, because that's in 78 one, like Lex just kind of, oh, there it is, and they walk right in. Here you have to have a door.
Yep. Well, that's what I was going to say. To have it be not just his headquarters, but to kind of be a focal point for something. Now, obviously, being a Superman fan, being a comic book fan, I kind of picked up where it was going. Did either of you guys pick up on the whole Ultraman? One of Lex's villains. They had the Engineer and Ultraman. Did you pick up on where that was going early, or were you surprised when the climax hit?
I was surprised. I didn't know. I was unfamiliar with Ultraman, and then obviously was very surprised when we saw his face for the first time.
Yeah, I think I just assumed Lex. I mean, Lex getting Superman's DNA having a 3-year head start doesn't seem that improbable. Like I didn't need an explanation in that moment. I was just like, yeah, of course Lex would figure out Kryptonian technology or figure out how to get in there. It wasn't really until like they did the shot of Ultraman getting up with his mask tore like half off that I was like, oh, I bet you it's a clone. So it was like in the moment that I realized it. So I would say they did a good job hiding that. But back to the Fortress of Solitude, I did love like the robots inside. I was going
to say it was like an army of 2-1B medical droids.
It gave me heavy like early Superman the Animated Series vibes, which the whole movie kind of felt like that. It felt like that Bruce Timm Superman of Justice League and the animated series that I grew up on made into a movie. The way Metropolis is depicted, the color palette, the kind of like the some of the jokes, and of course the blue of those robots or whatever, it all just screamed very Bruce Timm era Superman to me, which I really enjoyed. But they were really cool.
And
I feel like I have to say real quick too, voiced by Alan Tudyk, who does great voices, but he has quite the repertoire of robots now, as he also did K2SO in Andor/Rogue One. So he's got a nice little robot building up thing going on now too.
Was he the voice in I, Robot, the one with Will Smith?
Oh, I don't think so. That's a good question.
Let's check the Google.
I know
We'll have to do the.
I know he's
This IMDb search pause is brought to you by
the Gary Robbins fan club.
there you
Go
go.
to CanadianGiant.com right now and sign up.
Oh, I would sign up. Do we get a T-shirt?
Alan Tudyk was the robot in I, Robot.
Ah,
Yeah.
good call.
He's not a robot,
Yeah.
but
Same year that he was Steve the Pirate in Dodgeball.
he's not a robot in this one, but he is in A Knight's Tale.
And he serves. He's kind of like the servant in that one, so it's kind of a similar vibe.
And he's in the that Resident Alien show.
Yep, he's
So
been
you
in
know
all
what
kinds
he
of
was
things.
in? He was actually in a DC property. He was on that show on NBC, Powerless, where he was like Bruce Wayne's cousin that ran the company that made all like I think they took like the insurance claims for the superheroes or something.
Did that show even get a full season, or was it one of those like 6 episodes and they were like, "We're not renewing you"?
No, it got at least 13, if not 22 episodes.
I think this
That got a whole run,
this
yeah.
is made up. I've never heard of this.
No, it was
It
about
was like an
10 years
Office
ago.
Place sitcom of these people that live within the DC universe. Like that's what it was.
I don't understand. I don't believe you guys. All right. Is there anything else we haven't talked about this fantastic film?
I guess just where we're heading. I know I'd mentioned it before. I think the Batman would fit perfectly in this. Robert Pattinson, the Matt Reeves Batman movies, would love to see that be the same universe as this. Mainly just because when I think back, I'm going back again to those Bruce Timm era animated series that I grew up on. Gotham and Metropolis were like polar opposites. Those two shows that existed in the same universe felt entirely different. You had like a Art Deco futuristic Metropolis that was like clean and pristine. And then you had like the gothic, dark Gotham that's industrial and steam. And they could coexist and you could have the heroes cross, and that they became extensions of their heroes whenever those two would be on screen and their clashing ideologies. So I think it would be really awesome for them to figure out a way to combine the Batman as the sequel comes out later this year or next year, whatever that is. But into this Superman universe, sign me up. You could pull it off. I think it would work. We've done it in comics. We've done it in the animated series. I'd do it. Brandon, did you see the Batman?
Oh yeah, I saw it.
I did, yeah. I loved it. And matter of fact, I was even saying to Zach, he was asking where I kind of rank this one. And I said that as far as DC stuff, not counting the animated, because I do love the animated, although I would put this above all of those. I think only the Batman surpasses this one. Like I would put this at a steady number 2, keeping the Batman number 1. I think I would have to go with that.
I just really loved, and again, that's the same. These two heroes where they are at the ends of their films, I think is just perfect. Because that one is Batman spends most of the movie kind of almost like hating himself in a way, and not being seen at all in the daylight, thinking that he can only be seen by the villains and be fear. And then by the end, when he's rescuing all those people from like the flood and the sun rises, and he realizes he too can also be like a symbol of hope in a way, but in a very different way. So like you take that character where he is at the end of that film combined with like this Superman at the end of this film and the way they kind of operate, I think that would be amazing. I would love to see that.
Anybody else? You know what I just watched recently was Blue Beetle, which I didn't think was too bad. But does Blue Beetle
have
have
Miguel from Cobra Kai?
Right.
Is that a part of the? I'm trying to think. I did see that, but I don't remember if there was anything that dated that in the like Snyder verse, or if it could be the DC.
I mean, that's pretty much considered the previous canon.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see them bringing him back, but I don't know if they would necessarily do a brand new Blue Beetle film. I think that they'd
No,
probably
that's what
find a
I'm
way
saying.
to
Yeah.
I feel like
wedge him in.
it would be like the Incredible Hulk of the MCU, where they were like, Iron Man
Yep.
kicked off this new MCU, and then they were like, but kind of the Incredible Hulk did too. Like they bring him back and just say that it was in this universe the entire time.
Yeah, I don't see, and again, that's why I didn't really have any issue. Like, I don't think you're going to have a Hawk Girl movie or a Mr. Or even a guy, so it's like, those are the type of characters you want to add. And I get what you're saying, Ryan, with Batman. Obviously, who wouldn't want to see Batman and Superman together? But I'm glad for this one to establish Superman as like the main guy. They didn't have somebody like Batman because then you're competing. Then you got like two.
Oh yeah, no, I wouldn't have wanted to
Avengers
see
in
him
there at the same time, and
yeah, definitely not want to see him in this one. But like for the longest time, when Gunn first took over, one of the first things that, because the Batman had just come out and it was extremely successful, and then they hand the reign to Gunn, and everybody's initial kind of question is, well, what about the Batman? And the answer was, well, it's kind of an Elseworlds, it's its own thing. We're not going to like tie it in. And what I'm saying is like, I think you can make it work. I think they should just do it anyway. But yeah, there's again, you don't want to have two Batmans running around at the same time. Like it's just confusing. But yeah, obviously this is the new universe, and it's not just going to be Superman going forward. And the nice thing about David playing this role is he could play this role for the next 15 years as they continue to build around him. So there's a lot to come. I imagine we'll get other Lanterns, not just Guy Gardner, at some point, because Nathan Fillion isn't getting any younger, so they'll probably hand that off at some point.
We'll get Hal Jordan for sure. We'll get Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart for sure.
I would love to see Jon Stewart. I know we've seen Hal before. I think Jon Stewart's an awesome character as a Lantern. I think they'd like to, I mean, they can do them both. In the comics, there's 4 of them running around that are all humans at the same time, so they can definitely pull it off.
Obviously, we talked about Supergirl. That would be a safe assumption that she will be a part of the next one. We
hopefully sober.
Hopefully, and we really didn't get a ton of Daily Planet. Again, Perry White wasn't in there much. We see Kat, she's just kind of there doing her thing. But I mean, we didn't even get like Clark really being Clark. Like we didn't get that moment where Clark is Clark doing Clark things, and all of a sudden he has to turn into Superman. We didn't get any of that. So there's stuff that you might expect in a Superman movie that we didn't even get to in this one. So
yeah, there wasn't a lot of him like doping around as Clark, and maybe some of that is because Lois knows and they're in a relationship. So he doesn't. Yeah,
you usually get that.
He doesn't have to play it off. Right. So I don't know how you. I mean, he still probably acts it up a little bit to everybody else, but I don't know if that ship has kind of sailed or what.
Yeah, and I did like that Perry, like like at the end where he's like, "Oh, I'll get an interview," and he's like, "Perry White, you can't pull the wool over his eyes." He's like, "How long have those two been hooking up?"
That was nice.
That was awesome.
They ain't fooling nobody.
You could fool some people, but you ain't fooling Perry White. And I don't know if Chris, you might be able to answer this. They mentioned the hypno glasses, which I think that's the first time I've ever heard of that, where Clark wears hypno glasses, which is why people don't realize that Clark and Superman are the same. If I've ever heard that, that left my memory banks. I'm assuming that's more of
It's been mentioned in the comics, but it's not.
I'm assuming it's a comic thing.
It's not like a consistent thing,
right?
I mean, if it's
I can't remember who came up with it.
I don't doubt that they did, because just somebody was probably felt they had the need to explain. It's always been the trope of like him doing it, but like I don't know. I don't think it needed to be there. Like I think Christopher Reeve showed that you can pull it off. Him inevitably taking off the glasses and standing up straight and fixing, like that was, I think that showed it can be done. Like, I mean, if that's my biggest nitpick of the movie, then that is perfectly normal. But I don't think it really needed to do that.
Well, even here, I mean, Corn Sweat's, I mean, he's got that mop top hair as Clark, and he just looks all disheveled a bit. And then when he's Superman,
I guess maybe you could say in the social, because what you would usually say is, none of these people that in the Daily Planet are ever close enough to actual Superman to even make the connection.
Right.
But maybe you could say in like social media and HD and cameras, we can get a pretty good idea of what he would look like. So maybe you need another extra level there of explanation. But that's always just kind of one of the funny, quirky things of Superman. I don't know if it was necessary.
All right, Toyman. Anything else we haven't covered about Superman?
I mean, overall, it was just great to see a lot of action, less moping, less
Right.
depression, less, we did get some of those instances of self-doubt. But the fight scenes I think were great. I think they gave not just Superman and Crypto time to shine, but you were able to get a little bit of spotlight on Guy Gardner, Metamorpho towards the end, Hawkgirl. I did appreciate the fact that Guy Gardner's attitude went directly into the fight, such as when he used his Green Lantern powers to have a bunch of hands with the middle fingers raised pop up and start knocking out members of the military that they were trying to invade the country, and they showed up to protect them. Um, just, I was very impressed. This movie, when you take a look at just a couple of years ago, when everyone was so excited for Michael Keaton coming back and how the Flash was going to have the whole time rift and there were going to be all these different characters and cameos, and that movie utterly sucked. I am a huge Flash fan. I am a huge Batman fan. I was just as excited for Keaton as anyone. That movie was terrible.
Even I
And
thought
then
that
here
movie
you
was
go.
terrible.
Yeah, it was garbage. There's not one redeeming quality, and I'm not a fan of Ezra Miller who played the Flash. I think that the Flash from the CW was great,
Right.
and if they were going to do it, they could have had Grant Gustin just do a big budget version of that.
Hmm.
So I didn't like the whole trying to reboot that, but that movie completely failed in every aspect. And here, I was a little trepidatious when the trailers came out and it's like, oh, Metamorpho, oh, Mr. Terrific, oh, Hawkgirl. I'm like, all right, he's gonna cram too much into this. He's gonna try to make it kind of like an ensemble thing, like Guardians of the Galaxy. And you know what? The fact that we didn't do the same old, here's the spaceship crash landing in Kansas, here's them getting, even in like the sense of a montage, we got all the the exposition that we needed. If you don't know Superman's story by now,
Right.
you got the bare minimum that you would need if you're just a casual fan. And everybody really played their role perfectly. I think that this is an excellent Superman and Lois Lane. I think all the side characters did their roles well. I think Lex Luthor, when he comes back in his big ass suit of armor, or leading the Legion of Doom, or wherever they decide to go
Oh,
with
that'd be
this.
wonderful.
I think, yeah, I mean, I think Nicholas Holt really, it wasn't scenery chewing evil. It really was just, he had no redeeming quality. He had like that one, we talked about it, kind of like getting snippy, talking into the coffee cup. But if anything, Superman was played a little bit more for laughter than anyone else. It was
Yeah.
like Superman and Guy Gardner
Yep.
were kind of like the two humorous aspects of the
Oh
film.
yeah, like Gardner
So,
was great when Superman had to stop the black hole, the rift that was happening. So they had to send
mm,
the Justice Gang to the countries that were warring, and he's like, "You got an upgrade, kid." It's like, "Oh, you are a real prick, aren't you, Guy Gardner?" But
yeah, I thought
he
that
he did his job
everything
right. He helped, but yeah, you get the attitude with it.
I think that everybody complimented each other. I really don't see any major flaw in this film. I guess the one thing that stood out to me, though, which I don't know if I would take it as a knock or a critique or whatever like that, is in that end fight when Ultraman is starting to kind of fall apart and the costumes ripped and stuff like that. With the way they styled David's hair and stuff to make him look, similar yet different, I got a lot of uh, Captain America versus Winter Soldier vibes
Hmm.
because he had that paramilitary uniform on and stuff like that. So
Do they
if you're
somehow have
someone
him?
who's
Does he somehow survive the black hole to become Bizarro? Is that where we're going with that?
no, so in the comic books, Ultraman is his own character. He's basically like the multiversal evil version of Superman. So instead of the Justice League, there's the Crime Syndicate, and there's like an evil version of Batman. There's an evil version of Wonder Woman. Todd McFarlane has made action figures of them because Zach has the Ultraman figure. So when they were saying Ultraman, he kind of had this look. He's like, wait a minute. Like what's, and then I was like, oh, they're going to go this route. And I'm going to assume that James Gunn's inspiration for this was for how the boys ended up in the comics. And spoiler alert, which is I don't think anything that would happen on the show, but Homelander in the comics, the character of Black Noir, who's kind of like the
Right.
Snake Eyes Batman hybrid type character, in the books, he's actually a clone of the Homelander who was doing all of the sickening misdeeds that drove the real Homelander crazy and basically forced him to start doing all the depraved shit because he thought he was already doing it. So when they take off his mask, they kind of do like the whole like, wait a minute, you're me type thing. So similar vibes here. So there might be some Garth Ennis inspiration in James Gunn's screenplay here. But I was I was not, I don't want to say I was taken by surprise because I had high hopes for this one, but I guess I'll end by saying it did not disappoint. This was absolutely great, and anyone who's writing a negative review is just writing it for the sake of being negative because this one, I mean, they brought it, and this is an excellent start to a new DC cinematic universe.
I have a name for the people writing a negative review just to write a negative review, and that is joyless fucks. Ryan
Oh, I thought
Campbell.
you said joyless bastards. I was like,
No, that bastard's not strong enough for these people. Ryan Campbell.
yeah, I think of to play off those fucks. A few days ago, I was on the red carpet. Somebody asked James Gunn about something about the movie, and he said that it was an immigrant story. Obviously, Superman is an immigrant, and boy, did that get Fox News riled up. They did a whole piece on it. Somebody put a screenshot on Twitter, and they were like, "I would expect this to be a scene from the movie because it was like the whole Fox News Krylon at the bottom saying Superman's gone woke, and like them talking about it." And all that other stuff, and and Ben Shapiro's on his podcast being like, why would you undermine your audience a few days before it comes out? Why would you alienate them? Blah, blah, blah. And my response to that is because you sometimes have to, that I admire them for not trying to make a movie that just says nothing and tries to appeal to everybody. There are very clear parallels in the movie to a certain war that's going on right now and a very polarizing topic in the world today that the movie plays directly into, and beyond all the immigrant stuff. So again, it's not that the movie's being political. It's that we as a society today politicize everything. We're the ones that make everything politics. We make treating someone with respect and honor a political thing. We've done that. So when the movie comes out and says the same shit that Superman has been saying his entire existence, I think of that meme, and somebody's already redone it. It originally started as Spider-Man, but they've done it with Superman, where it shows like me as a child watching Spider-Man, him saying, be good and respect people. And he's like, Spider-Man? And then it says now, be good and respect people. And they're like, you woke piece of shit. So like the movies they're not saying anything different than what they've been saying before. Some of you are just miserable fucks now. And I admire the movie for being, for James Gunn just flat out saying it, for showing it. This is the Superman we need right now. He can be the good to all. He can be that beacon of hope. Doesn't have to be edgy, says very poignant things, and it's going to piss off a lot of people. And I'm going to have to see that shit online for probably the next few years. But I'm so glad that it exists. I'm so glad the movie was made, and I really appreciated it.
Yeah, as I said at the top, this is the movie I was hoping Superman Returns would be. This is the movie I've basically been waiting for since Superman 2. And there are certain things, and I don't know if it's just a me thing, but there are certain pieces of media or movies or something that really just immediately, I almost feel like it reaches into my freaking soul. And I felt that with this movie. Like, I was so optimistic, and I'm like, part of me was also like, oh, you're setting yourself up. You're setting yourself up. But everything I did see, and again, I was like you, Ryan, I wasn't trying to dig too deep into anything. I was like, but what I could see, and I saw the trailer, and I'm like, okay. And I'm like, it seems like it should be good. There's nothing I'm seeing that's odd. There's nothing that's a red flag for me. man, I watched it and it did. Like my life force was enhanced. I was like on cloud nine after the movie, days after the movie, and I was like so happy that I saw it so early because I didn't see a lot of the bull crap until maybe today. But man, it's like I'm going to go see it again. I feel the need to see it again, and in my adult life, I don't think I've gone back to a theater to see a movie. I cannot remember ever. As a kid, I saw movies many times over and over again in the theater, but as an adult, I have never gone back to see a movie that I already saw, but I will be doing that for this movie. It's called to me. It was like the freaking green crystal in the goddamn Smallville barn, and I'm ready for it. And I'm ready for more. I hope we get tons more. And to your point, these people are young enough that they could keep going and doing this for quite some time. So thank you very much for bringing this movie to life, Warner Brothers and James Gunn and the entire cast. As you mentioned, Chris, everybody is perfect in their freaking role. It's one of those movies where it's like, oh, this person would have been better as that. No, there's nobody. These are the people that should be playing these parts. And that is why this movie is so good.
Please stick with it. Don't bail the first time one of the movies bombs.
Right. Hopefully we don't.
The minute
I don't think this will bomb. I think this will do well.
This won't, no. But like if they make a Lantern movie 4 years from now and it bombs, will they just be like, blow the whole thing up,
right.
fire done, start over.
Yeah.
And then 10 years later, they'll just use it as like a meta humor gag, the way that Deadpool and Wolverine used all the Fox movies.
Because by then, Warner Brothers will have changed ownership 4 times
right.
and renamed their app and everything.
Yeah. I mean, I might be the owner of Warner Brothers by then. I don't know.
Who knows?
It could happen. Anything could happen. That probably won't. But, we could try. So, yeah, there it is, folks. That is our Superman super special podcast. Again, it's very rare that we do these brand new movies. I know we did earlier this year, Chris, when we both saw the new Karate Kid movie. But yeah, it's a rare treat because normally we are covering things like our next episode, which will be TC 2000 with Gary Robbins.
Yay!
So that is next time here on the podcast. We'll be kind of back to more of our normal format. But you know what else is coming up, guys?
Well, we got to get back in the swing of things before.
Yeah, that's right. We got to start ramping up because August hits and it is Actionversary month, 11 years of bulletproofaction.com. And earlier this year, Chris, we talked about a Cirio Santiago movie. And I think after that, I'm like, he's done so many, we could probably, but I don't think we are going to do a countdown of Cirio Santiago movies. But guess what? I had one of my token chains of heart, and we are going to be doing the Ultimate Cirio Santiago countdown. Got some special people lined up to join us as we always do when we do these rankings. And I'm very intrigued because there are a lot of Cirio Santiago movies, Chris. What's going to make
there are, and well, it depends since a lot of them use the same script.
Right.
So we'll have to see which versions rank higher than some others.
Right. So that will be the big post for this year, but that whole week, that whole Actionversary week, we'll have something going on. We're going to be celebrating the 40th anniversary of American Ninja. There's going to be a brand new edition of World's Most Dangerous. I got that underway. Nobody 2 comes out in August. That's something I'm going to be covering. I know, Chris, you're going to do some PM entertainment for us. We got to have some
PM entertainment and some essential episodes.
That's right. So that's coming. We're going to have a special guest columnist, and he is going to talk Bruceploitation from A to Z.
We'll also have a special feature on the YouTube channel. So if you're watching us on the YouTube, make sure you subscribe for what we've got exclusive to the YouTube channel, Brain.
Oh, that's exciting. And I'm going to last year, Scene of the Week returned for Actionversary. Well, it's coming back again, but it's got a little bit of a twist to it this year. I won't give that all away at once, but yeah, it's going to be a jam-packed August. But we're just in the first half of July, so we've still got some July to go. And again, we're going to be covering TC 2000 on our next episode. And then after that, Kickboxer 3. So that is the Bulletproof Podcast schedule. And you can let us know what you think about that schedule, or if you have something you'd like us to cover, because you could hit us up on social media at Bulletproof Pod on X and on Blue Sky, and at Bulletproof Action on Instagram and Facebook. Anything else, Ryan Campbell?
No, I would say we only got one of these left for the big July releases, and that is Fantastic Four coming out in a few weeks. So we'll have our review up for that when it comes out. But other than that, yeah.
That is right. That's coming up. Toyman, do you have anything else before we go?
When you're visiting bulletproofaction.com, be sure to check out No Surrender Cinema. I just posted my review of the 4 Shaolin Challengers. Went back to the old school Kung Fu this time around, and then there'll be some more Toyman content towards the end of the month.
Indeed, there will. I'm going to talk to you about that off the air. All right, folks. Thank you so much for listening. If you're a Superman fan, go out and see Superman. If you're a superhero fan, go out and see Superman. Maybe you'll see me there, because I'm going again. But of course, by the time this drops, I would have already gone again. Unless I go a third time, which don't rule that out. Because I did see some, like you could see it in 3D. I'm like, whoa, well, I didn't see it in 3D. Should I see it in 3D? I don't know about that. We'll find out. But yeah, thank you again for listening. And as always, stay tuned for more of the Bulletproof.